Hi, my name is Sarah, and today I'm going to share with you my journey learning, building, and maintaining React code using nothing but a web browser. Now, I never actually intended to learn React, but I did have a problem to solve, and my problem looked like this. This was my problem because the former choir member who built and maintained this site was long gone, no longer responding to emails, and either we keep holding our Christmas concert on December 13th every year until the end of time, or I use the little HTML knowledge I have and build us a new website. My initial exposure to React was through the online learning platform Scrimba. At first, I only intended to learn enough CSS to make a more modern website, but I just kept taking courses and it turned out I loved working with React. Now, Scrimba uses their own interactive video format for guided code screencasts. The neat thing is, you can pause the teaching video at any time and play around with whatever the code looks like at that exact moment in the video. Scrimba provides a code editor, a system for creating new files and installing dependencies, and a live preview pane so you can see the effects of your code changes. Then, when you hit play again, your changes are gone and the code reverts back to the state it was in when you paused the video. So you can never get too lost. It wasn't a low code environment, but with nothing to configure, it was low environment. This was how I learned React right from the very beginning. It was also the only way I coded in React for months. I didn't have any code running on a local machine. I didn't have any particular software installed. I was using an older Chromebook that had limited local storage and didn't run Linux. I didn't have a terminal or a shell or a console. I just had a browser window and a lot of notebooks. What this allowed me to do was to quickly get into the flow of React without any prep work or knowledge of a traditional development environment at all. I could write fully functional tiny React apps before I even knew what npm install did. With a basic foundation now in React, I was ready to figure out how to actually build apps and websites for myself. But I didn't even know where to go or how to get started outside of Scrimba. So I just kept putting words in a search engine like, write React online. Apparently, the phrase I wanted was online IDE. Sure enough, these quick start pre-configured dev environments that you can spin up right in your browser do exist, and it turned out there were lots to choose from. So I had the tools to build, but now the question was, what to build? Since many coding tutorials build clones of popular sites and apps, I looked at the apps I use most frequently to try to get some inspiration. Now, one thing to know about me is that I photograph birds, and I have no fewer than 6 bird apps on my phone at any one time. Okay, 7. And what I noticed was that many of these apps pulled their data from the same source, eBird, which is where I submit my bird observations. And that's when something really exciting happened. I realized that through eBird's API, I could access more information about my own account and sightings than I could by logging in on the website or using the official app. Specifically, there's no real way for a birder to check on the status of a rare or unusual bird submission, which must first be reviewed and then validated by eBird before the observation is admitted to their database. Otherwise, people could just be reporting a penguin in Toronto or a flamingo in Reykjavik. This is just a public website where anyone is free to report whatever they saw or heard. I realized that I could build a React app using eBird's API to at least render to the screen some of those object properties that didn't show up anywhere when logged into my account. Online code editors gave me access to a VS Code-like experience, as well as a refreshable preview pane to check the browser output, just like Scrimba did. It may not look like much, but I had used React to solve my own personal problem and to do something that I couldn't otherwise do. As I learned more React, I made some improvements, added new features, and tried out some different online code editors. And all this time, I still haven't done anything more than open a single browser window to access my repository, navigate its file structure, write and edit code, and see a live updating preview of my work. Well, one browser window, but admittedly lots of tabs as I figured things out. It felt pretty good, and it kind of still does, as all these excessive animations might indicate. But sometimes I'd want to do more than just start with a basic React setup, which so far for me had always been a one-click Start from New Template button in an online editor. This is where things start to go downhill because when I come across a new thing to try, I'm usually faced with a project setup that looks like this. Or this. Now, I still had never typed anything into a terminal window, but I already had basic React apps up and running. I really felt like I was ready to go further, but it just felt like nothing was meant for me. And to be honest, at times this was incredibly frustrating. Even when I felt pretty good about my progress with React, I would often feel utterly incompetent as a programmer. Instead of facing some of the typical obstacles early on, I was hitting them now. There was a lot of suffering in silence because how do I even ask someone for help with this? The sheer disconnect between building my own app versus following the standard step 0 instructions was almost enough to make me quit. So I have to point out here that this is where documentation can make or break a community. And as I'm right in the middle of preparing this talk, the new React docs have just been released in beta, and that's super exciting, even though I have to update my slides. This low point for me was all happening right around the time Gatsby 3 was released, and so they'd been working on their docs, including tutorial walkthroughs that they also made into live coding videos. These resources were so helpful and instrumental in getting me over that hump. From a Gatsby default starter template in Code Sandbox, I eventually managed to build my choir a brand new website. I had chosen Gatsby for the choir's blog because I wanted something built on React that I could understand, even though I probably wouldn't do more than update concert dates and monthly announcements. But now I wanted a new personal site too. I was feeling a little more adventurous and could get away with something experimental just for me. And I was still learning React, so I didn't just want to blog, I wanted to keep building too. That's right around the time people started talking about Astro. Astro is a new static site generator with component syntax similar to HTML and JSX, but it also allows you to include components from React, Preact, Vue, Svelte, Solid, which lets me do a lot of building in React everywhere inside my site. I think of my Astro blog as a home for a bunch of React components, ranging from very tiny learning experiments to my entire React Bird app. Now, when I want to test out a new idea or learn something new in React, I don't actually go looking for an online starter anymore. I open up my own website and add to my growing list of experiments, and then blog about it, including the components I just built right in the page. This is my workspace in Gitpod, by the way. Recently, I've started incorporating Jest and React Testing Library, and through Gitpod's terminal, I can run test suites and see my obviously passing tests. I'm also active offering support in the Astro community, where not everyone brings React experience. And knowing my way around these online collaborative code editors, as I now do, it's easy for me to throw their code into a quick, temporary online dev environment to troubleshoot or work on something together. This is how I started contributing to open source, forking, then submitting pull requests right from my browser in Gitpod. And I've also since become one of the maintainers for this open source project. So when I saw ReactConf's call for proposals from people we haven't seen before, using React in unusual ways, I thought, hey, I'm someone you've never heard of using React in unusual ways. So whether you're wondering how to get started without a lot of traditional support or tools to work with, or looking to take advantage of the recent shift to remote work and become more location independent, or whether you're a community builder wanting to be inclusive towards a new emerging category of developers, I hope that I've been able to highlight some of the differences, challenges, but most of all successes when all you've got is a browser tab. Thank you so much.